Get ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining the webinar today. We're going to be talking about Automic REST and Snow and integrations with ServiceNow. A brief overview of AutomWorx. We are a team of solution architects, consultants, and project managers who have worked within the Automic UC4 and AppWorks ecosystem for decades on migrations, upgrades, implementations. We can help with licensing. We can also help you with extended support, and we are proud to be a Broadcom Expert Advantage partner. We were founded in 2019. In 2022, we got our first Broadcom Knight, and this year, our presenter today, Steve Nguyen, was knighted. The Knights program within Broadcom recognizes partners for excellence within technical consulting. Again, implementations, upgrades, migrations. We can help you with environmental reviews. We offer training to ensure that the folks on your team know how to use Automic as well as possible so that you can get the most out of your installation. And again, that extended support if you need a little bit of help. Just a quick disclaimer, because we will discuss Broadcom and CA technologies. Any forward-looking statements are not a commitment and non-binding. Just a quick note, I saw a couple of folks had their AI note takers enter into the webinar. In order to be within compliance, I did have to remove those. I apologize if that's a challenge, but you will get a transcript and a recording of this. With that, I'd like to introduce you to Steve Nguyen, who is our Senior Principal Consultant at AutomWorx, and again, a Broadcom Knight. Steve, go ahead and take it away.
Let me share.
Yeah, you can share.
Here we go. Can everyone see my screen?
No.
No, not yet?
Yep, now I can. Now I can. Yep,
okay,
looks great.
Perfect. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Steve Nguyen. I've been working with Automic since 2007. In 2019 is when I left HCL and worked with AutomWorx. So today we're going to talk about the Automic REST agent and how it integrates in with other solutions. With that, let's get started. The presentation is pretty informal, so if you have any questions, just put it out in the question panel, and then we will answer it as needed. So the REST agent, today we're going to cover the purpose of the REST agent, key features, implementation, and practical uses cases for the agent. All development and object design and configuration are done within the agent in the AWI. The REST agent calls other RESTful web services, and it can also call the Automic REST services. And it's not completely no coding involved. There's some light coding involved, but very light coding. You'll see that during the demo. You can automate your REST calls with the Automic REST agent. The REST agent extends the capability of the automation engine, Automic Automation, to enable powerful script-free orchestration of API-driven processes. So what is the REST agent? The REST agent is like a bridge that allows you to connect your automation, workload automation, to other services, right? Like one of the examples we're going to see there is Snow, and also not exactly. We're going to see the Snow solution that we have. We don't have a Snow environment, so I can't show you the Snow integration the way it should be. But I have another web service that's very similar to Snow. I mean, we're really a REST call to a Snow web services, ServiceNow services, or to any other type of REST services, basically the same, right? So it's not that different. So the REST agent eliminate eliminates manual coding. Instead of writing scripts to make the API calls, user can easily configure requests. There's a request panel, there's a response panel that you can use, and it's all done within the Automic web interface. You have access to the full power of automation, and you'll be able to incorporate the REST jobs with other jobs and other applications in workflows, and then you can schedule it, monitor it, and report on your runs of your jobs. Any questions? Key features of the agent. Okay, the agent is a graphical user interface. Make it it's accessible to a wide range of users. There's a bunch of methods that are available. You have get, you have post, you have put. At the beginning, when the REST agent was created, we only had get, post, and put. Now there's patch, delete, head options, trace, authentication methods. We do basic authentication, no authentication, SSL authentication, and I believe like 3 or 4 other authentications, which I will show you later in the session. By default, it supports JSON and XML, and I believe with this version, there's actually 3 or 4 other technology that it supports. Okay, we can handle errors and monitoring within the Automic automation engine. So you can have the power of the automation engine to control your REST processes. So how's this going to work? So during the presentation, we're going to go through the installation of the REST agent. We're going to go through configuration, and as the bullet goes along, I will show you in the product how each phase happens, and at the end, I'm going to show you a demo of the actual a simulated job failure and insertion of a incident into a REST API similar to Snow or ServiceNow. Okay, so with that, let's start with the installation. So the installation process is fairly simple. The new REST agent is called the integration REST agent, and it's a zip file. So basically, we unzip it. So in my case, I'm going to unzip it into the C drive. And then the next step in installation would be you would create the folders out and temp. Out would be where the report files will go, and temp is going to be where the agent log files are going to go. After that, we copy the original ucxjcitx Unix to INI file and rename it ucxjcitx.ini. Okay. Within that, then we would edit that file accordingly. So let me go in and show you my environment really quickly. Where I have it extracted. So in my environment, I have it in Automic Agents, IG REST. So this is the installation. You unzip it here, right? We edit this file. So in the old implementation of the REST agent, we would literally have to do a hopefully all of you are familiar with Automic. There's a dbload utility that we had to load a jar file for the old RA REST agent. With the new implementation, this jar file get loaded automatically. So there's no other steps that you have to do to load the jar file. Okay. And then we would go in and edit the INI file. So the name of my agent is the IG REST agent. My system name is Automic. The configuration file looks very complicated, but in reality, it's not. Okay, so when we go back to the slides, I'll show you the few entries that you have to change just to start it. Okay, so it looks complicated, but it's really not. So the next slide will show us the entries that we need to edit. So the only entries that you need to edit is the name, the connection. In this case, the connection is localhost because my agent sits on the same system as my engine. And we name it localhost for a reason. Because if you ever had to restore this to any other system, you don't have to go in and change the file, right? It's always going to be localhost on any system you restore it to. If you were to use it on a remote agent, then you would have to use the fully quantified name and then the ws.port number out of the UC serve the INI file, which is the automation engine NE file. The next entry is your cert folder where you have the public cert, your encrypted password, and then change your output job report to out instead of temp. And that's only if you want to do that. I like to keep my output reports separate from the agent logs, so that way you can quickly identify, which file is which, and it doesn't mix the logs together with the with your output files. The next step would be to add your new agent that you just installed into the Service Manager dialog. Anyone familiar with Automic Automation knows that the Service Manager dialog is what starts up all the Automic processes and agents, okay? So quickly, inside the Service Manager dialog, all you have to do is duplicate one of any of the Java processes and rename it to your agent name, whatever name you choose to name it. Okay, it could be IG_REST, it could be UC4_IG_REST. After renaming it, you would edit the properties of it, right? You check the auto start and then set a delay if you wish, right? And then follow it by the command. This command is given to you inside of the agent manual, right? With exception to the disable cache. So I like to use this disable cache to tell Java to don't cache stuff, because Java have a tendency to cache information and it would not work well within the agent. That's through experience. And then the start path is basically the path where the agent starts from. Let's go into the product and I can show you what that looks like inside of the system. So don't know why I keep reverting to there, but here we go. So let's move this along. And then if you look into my Service Manager dialog, this is my agent, okay? And typically what I do would be, I would duplicate any of the service that are there. Typically it would be, for instance, like a SQL or Oracle SQL or any of these agents right here. You duplicate it, then rename it, call it UC4 IG REST 2. And then you would edit the properties and then change it accordingly. So all you have to do is copy what I had in the other slide and then put it in here. Okay, so that's all you had to do. And you would get something like this. So this is the current running agent with the command. The reason that you see the command like this is because we're using relative path. So what happens is it goes into Service Manager bin and it goes up to directory down agent and so on and run the agent. So with that, let's go into the interface so you can see what it looks like in the Automic interface. So in here, the first thing you would do would log into client 0. So when you first add an agent and start it up in Automic, it would automatically goes into client 0. Then you log into client 0 and you would assign the client to the corresponding running client that you want to run it in, right? So in here, we go to administration, agents, edit UIG, oh, that's FTP, sorry. IG REST agent. And then in the agent panel, you would assign it to the agent you want to assign it to. Typically, you would do execute only unless you need to read or write something from the actual file system, then you would check both. Typically, I do both, all three, I mean, and then just save. Once you save it, you'll see your REST services available, and then all these are some of the options on the agent you can enable. Let's go back to the slides. So let's talk about some of these options. So this shows you how to duplicate, write the values in for the REST agent, and then assign it accordingly. In client 0, you authorize the REST agent into any running client you have. These are all running clients. Client 0 is not a running client. It's called the admin client. Then within the REST panel of the agent, you can enable curl commands. You actually type in a curl command and send the curl command to your REST API. You can also allow groovy parsing of the responses. If you're using certificates, you can have if you're using SSL, you can have a certificate, you can have a key store. You also have to put in a password for your key store to access it. Okay. And then the next thing you do is go into the running client and you create your connection object. So I'm going to go through a few of these slides and I'll go in and show you how to easily create a connection and a REST job. Be aware that within the connection object, you have to, the usage of the connection object is very simple. Just have to know how to set up the resources. And the resources is based on how your REST API is exposed to you. Okay, so in here, in my example, the exposure is for the Automic REST API. So in the Automic REST API, we will see a few how would I say it, methods that are allowed by your REST API. Their executions, folder objects, forecast objects. I'll show you the REST API for the Automic Automation in a little bit. And then based on that, you would set it in as the resource. Once you set it as a resource, when you go to create the job in your REST request, you'll be able to select the resource from a pull down. Okay, so this is how it's related. Okay. Just remember that. And then other things in the connection object you have available. Remember earlier we were talking about all the different authentication methods. You can have none, you can have basic, bare token, digest, NTLM, Kerbos, OAuth, even Amazon Web Services URL. Okay, so those are all the different methods. So then you would go in and define the job, right? So you define the job by doing add new object, right? How do you get to add new object? There's an add object button within the client, running client, or you can right click anywhere in the folder and do add new object. So let's go in and look at that part of the what we went through in the slides already. I don't want to go through too much at once because I want to go through piece by piece. So it'll be easier for you guys to follow.
And also remember, everyone, if you do have a question, you can use the Q&A button. It's in the bottom of your tray, kind of towards the middle, or it might be on your 3 little dots, just depending on the size of your screen.
Thank you, Wendy. Now I'm going to leave client 0 and going to client 200, my running client. So inside the running client, let me show you first the Automic REST API. So what's exposed here, right? So from the REST API, we see that execution is one of the methods that you can do, right? You can do get against the execution. And with guess, it goes guess, it goes the full URL, which is this right here, right? Before we go any further. So it would be HTTP or S, if I have SSL turned on, the host name, the port, AE, API, and then in our case, V1. Hence, you see the V1 here. So I will end up putting this inside of my endpoint, right? URL endpoint. That's what I will use. So in the resource, the next thing I would do would do execution. After execution, you would use / in the client ID, right? So each one of these would be execution, client ID execution, client ID execution, and run ID. And I'll show you how to override that to get the right client inside of your job. There's an overriding factor that allows you to add a client ID into it. So after executions, right, we have other functionality you can do, like folder objects. We have forecast. So each one of these will become a resource. Object, right, would be objects will become a resource inside this ping. So the first example I'm going to show you is the ping. Okay, the ping is the most simplest one for of all the atomic requests you can do. So let's go to process assembly, REST, and AE. So in here, I'm going to create a connection object by doing add connection object, web services REST, my REST connection. So in here, I'm going to call this con REST dot AE underscore ping. Then I would put my value here. I don't have any authentication on here. And then my only resource in here will be ping, right? So the value will be ping. I'm gonna go ahead and save this. And then now I'm ready to create my job. Okay. So in the jobs creation, there are many values that can be filled out in the Automic REST job. And only the stuff that are strictly related to REST is under web services. Everything else is relating to any general object within Automic. You have a general tab, you have a process tab, attributes tab. So a lot of time people look into an Automic job and it looks complex, but in reality, a lot of these values you don't have to fill out unless you use it. The only thing that you need is, I call it during training when I train people, the 3 W's. You need where to run it, what to run, and who to run it as. The 3 W. That's all you have to fill out to run a simple job within Automic. A lot of times people can get overwhelmed looking at the Automic job and say, oh, wow, look at all these panels and all these values. The reality is you don't have to fill out that many values at all to run something. Okay. So the pieces that we're going to deal with today is going to be the web services, request, response, the attributes to tell it where to run, right? And possibly the post-process tab where we will, after we grab the value from the response, we're going to post it into the post-process, okay? And let's slide through the slides real quick, through the slides about that, and then I'll go through and show you how to create the first ping job. So let's go through to the next slide, which is the web services slide. So in here, you will select your connection, right? So I will select my ping connection, and then I will select this in order to write the response to the job log. The reason I need to do this is because once you capture the response, then you can get the response and you can put it into the response tab, and it actually helps you build the JSON or the XML path to pull the value you need from the response. Okay, so that's the reason. One of the reasons why I choose to have the response written into the job. After that, you go select the resource you need, right? And then you would go select what media type you want to do. You can do JSON. Remember earlier we talked about the different media types you can have: JSON, XML, octet streaming. By far, though, I think people use mostly JSON. Most of the web services I've ran into only use JSON. and possibly a few with XML, but mostly JSON. Okay, so then after you select JSON, you can even upload it, right? So you can actually don't have to actually use direct input. You can upload it from a file. Okay? Use it from a file. And if you choose to use direct input, then you just type in what you want to post on your request. Okay. So in this case, what I'm showing you is a post, okay, against an execution. So I'm executing something within the Automic engine. Okay. And then in the response tab, you would go in and then you would select, you add a row, select how you want to parse it, assign it to a variable, right? And then the test button is where you actually go in and test what comes back from the request, and then you would go into the report that you have earlier, and you would paste it in here. There's another panel is going to come up once you click test. Put it in, you can test type in your JSON commands to pull the entry you need. And in my case, it would be $.run ID, and that's how it pulls it and stores it in run ID. What's special about this recent integration agent is it allows you to do retries. So this is new in the integration 24 agent. You can enable retry if it fails, how many times it fails, after how many minutes, and then if it was successful, it would stop retrying, right? So stop retrying if certain amount is reached. And then the last thing you do is go to the attributes tab, where you would set how you want a job to deactivate, and then the most important thing, we have what it's going to run, right? Who it's going to run as, right, in the connection object, and then where is it going to run? So it's going to run on our RA REST agent. Okay. So with that, I'm going to take you back to the demo and show you that inside the product. So here I have my I still have my job ping here. Let me delete that and start from scratch. Oh, it's active. Activate that. So now I just do add new object, web services, my REST web services object, job. I'm going to call this REST AE ping. Now, in my web services panel, I would go select my AE ping, write the response. In this case, the response is not going to be very much, but in another, during the demo, I'll show you a more complex request. Here's where you do override if you needed to, and it accepts variables from the variable tab. In your request, we will select ping, and then in your attributes, we will select our agent. So I have an agent group here. I can go and select the agent directly, or I can use an agent. I'll go ahead and use direct assignment, and then tell it to end when it runs successfully. Then you save, and then execute. Then we open up the report, and note status 200 is an OK, successful ping. Any question? No questions so far? Then we'll move on to the next slide before we get to the demo. The next thing is the value added is being able to add your REST jobs to a workflow. So you can orchestrate within a workflow where you can run a variety of other objects, other jobs against other systems, right? You might have ServiceNow, you have Salesforce, right? So you can integrate Salesforce, ServiceNow, even AWS if you have uh, OBES running on Oracle Cloud, you can integrate Oracle Cloud in this. The only thing that limits you is how many agents Automic have. And Automic have a whole slew of agents. If you look with the integration agent, I believe there might be more than 20 agents listed out there for all different kinds of services. Okay. Um, use the process experience perspective to add your objects, right, to your workflows. Typically, you use the standard workflow. There are actually three types of workflows, but 90% of the time you use the standard workflow. In the workflow workspace, you use the object selector to add jobs and workflows as required. I'm not going to go through the usage of the AWI or the Automic Automation. I'm assuming many of you have used this product before. Adjust task property as needed using the task properties within the task, right? So each object that you see here used in this particular workflow has overriding values that you can use in it, and each one of them has all these available overrides, like general overrides, correct calendar override. You can select certain time a job can run by calendar, change the variable that you pass to the job, right? So each job using a different workflow could pass different values to it. Using it via prompts, you can put pre and post conditions, set runtime to it, right? So there's a lot of features within anything. All the standard features available in Automic Automation is available for you to use against your REST jobs. And just remember, you don't have to use any overrides if you wish not to, right? So it looks complex only if you make it complex by using the features, right? And slowly, as quite often I go back and look at some of my customers. When I first teach them to use the product, they rarely use any of the features. 10 years later, I come back and everything's enabled. Like once they learn it, they just use the heck out of it. They just use every features in there. So that's how it always goes, right? So this is the workflow that I'm going to demonstrate for you. Okay. So in this demo REST workflow, we will add an object and then we go list the object. So the only way we can list the object is we pass the value of the job identification number, the object identification number to the list job, right? So that's one of the things I'm going to show you later. And then of course, with the usage of it within the Automic Automation, you can have execution and monitoring control of it, right? How the job run, how it finishes, use all the functionality within the Automic Automation. Common uses, okay? Service orchestration, right? So one of the examples I'm going to show you is the automatic creation of an insert of an entry into a REST API, which is the same thing as inserting into ServiceNow, right? And then after that, from the outside, we'll call back in and restart that job that failed, okay? So I'm going to show you that in the demo. We'll show you how to trigger a REST job, querying any external service data, right? We'll show you how to integrate into, you can integrate into other cloud-based services, right? Using the REST API, CRM systems, payment gateways, business process automation. So using the Automic workload automation, you can orchestrate complex business processes, multiple applications via REST, via specific job integrations that we have, agents that we have, anything we have available. You can create a job from within Automic. You can use it. There's a question. Are there features in Automic you would use if you had more information?
Oh, that's a poll.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
All right. So with that, let's go into the demo. Okay. So the demo, I will show you the creation of the connection object, the job, specific targets example would be a post, right? I'll show you the request body, show you how to extract the value, run the job. All right, so let's go in to the demo. Here you see under RESTful API, I have a RESTful API out here. In here, you see I have several different type of jobs, right? So I can delete objects from it. So one of the things I use is I use my add object here, where I would go and add an object using web services. This web services, it is the it's called RESTful API. If we go look at the connection object, it's not exactly the same as it's not ServiceNow, but it's very similar. Basically, what it does is it adds the one that I choose adds an object into the system, like a book category, basically. So it's the API RESTful API objects. So here, let's run my first demo. Is going to be under here. Let's run this job. This job is going to fail, right? So when I run this job, it's a Windows job. It's going to ping, and here I use X as a value. So it's going to fail. Once it fails, in the runtime, it's going to call my script. So this will make a call out to, in the web service case, we would use a web services job, basically, which would insert a ticket into web services. So in my case, it's going to run this job, which inserts it into the RESTful API category. So the job ran. Let's look at its execution. It failed. And when you look at the child execution, you notice that it's going to run this call like script. And then the script my script is going to call the job it's going to call this object here, which is job rest add object. Okay, that's the same job I showed you earlier. So with that, let's go run the, look at the report. We have to go into that job and look at the report. Give me 1 second. It's going to be this job. And there it added this entry into the system. Okay, and then we go look at the post processing, where it actually posts the object ID number, which allows you to go back and query. Okay. And then back into the demo, I can call this job. Right? This job will actually go and run the Automic job to restart the job that just failed. Okay, so we're going to run this to restart the job that failed. Let's go look at the execution. So now it runs this job. But the last thing I wanted to show you before we end the presentation is how to get the base 64 encryption. So if you notice inside the request for the AE, the job itself in the header, you have to put in a request header. In the request header, the type should be application JSON. Authorization has to be could be basic or any other type. In this case, in my case, it's basic, and then a base 64 encrypted ID and password of how I log into the automation engine, right? So with that, the way that you would do that would be let me see here. Oops. Did I not enable? There, this is it. So the way you would encrypt it is you have to open a PowerShell command and then put your ID and password. So my ID is NGS and my password is UC. Set it to this variable and then retype calling that variable, and it would put out the encryption for you. So that's what I have in my my authentication authorization field, right? TKDTO1VD. If we go back and look at my my screen, you see that that's what I have in here. So that's how I got this encryption to make it work with the automation engine. And let's go back to the demo slide and then move on to the next slide. Anybody has any questions so far? And the benefits of a REST agent, you increase agility, right? You accelerate the digital transformation by enabling clicks and easy integration with modern web services. You improve efficiency, reduce manual efforts and potential for human error by automating API-driven processes. You have more visibility into the product via the Automic Automation. The process monitoring allow you to manage, restart jobs, monitor jobs, and then have an audit trail of everything that happens inside your system, your environment. And automatic ServiceNow incident creation and resolution, right? So that's the last piece we showed you in the demo via the demo. Next steps, what do we do next? You can go to downloads.atomic.com and download the REST agent to try it out, right? Also, look in the Automic Marketplace. There are many, many other examples of REST integrations in there. I've seen quite a few in there for REST. I think if there's even a REST integration with GitHub, I believe. Consult documentations. There's docs.atomic.com. Shows you how to do the installation and configuration. Start with a simple API integration, right? If you build your REST job and test that. Join the community. A lot of helps with the Automic community. And last, the appendix, which I was showing you how to encrypt the base 64 encryption to pass on to the Automic Automation engine. And that's all I have for today. Thank you very much.